Breaking news about another Hollywood divorce.
Come in over here, my beautiful wife.
After 39 years, Judge Greg Mathis and wife Linda are calling it quits.
You have to understand that marriage and love is give and take.
People always say the truth comes in pieces. Not all at once, not clean, but slowly, painfully, and usually when you least expect it. And for Judge Greg Mathis, that moment didn't come in a courtroom. It didn't come behind closed doors. It came publicly, loud, messy, and right in front of the same audience that once saw him as untouchable. Because what happens when a man who built his entire brand on respect, morals, and redemption suddenly becomes the topic of the very gossip he used to shut down? What happens when his own wife finally decides she's done protecting his image, and Wendy Williams, yes, that Wendy, links arms with her and says, "No more silence"? That's when everything changes.
That might not be true, according to you, about this woman that allegedly you slept with. You allegedly got her pregnant. Listen to let me draw up the skeleton, Judge, and then you fill in the meat.
Talk about fueling your stuff. You, on the other hand, have admitted to being addicted to cocaine.
Absolutely.
Secondly, you continue to show symptoms of your addiction.
Okay.
Lastly,
what are those symptoms? Tell me.
These nasal passages you keep coughing up.
And I did Afrin.
This eternal cold that you continue to have.
Yes,
that you can't have to come to work because every other week, and now you're even stupid so low as to blame it on your baby, your newborn. How low can you get? That's about as low as you can get, to blame your child for your addiction. Then, lastly, your bisexual activity. I'm sure your audience want to know about that. I've heard that rumor.
I'm sure my husband would love that.
Yeah. Oh, he watches? Does he watch when you do it?
Yes. Don't you know?
No, I don't know. I didn't know you were that low down. Lastly, we can continue with what I heard about all those. It's like 8. You had 8 of them. That's what I heard. That's the rumor.
How interesting.
Now you want to keep fueling that? Did you write about that in your book?
I wrote it in my book.
All 8 of them?
Yes, I wrote. I have an.
Because this time, it wasn't just internet chatter. It wasn't just rumors floating around the blogs. It was personal. It was emotional. And according to people close to the situation, it sent Greg Mathis into a breakdown nobody saw coming. For years, Judge Mathis was painted as the reformed man, the success story, the guy who beat the odds, left the streets behind, and turned his pain into purpose. America watched him hand out tough love from the bench, straighten people out, and preach accountability like scripture. But behind that calm voice and polished suit, there was a marriage quietly cracking. And when Wendy Williams stepped back into the conversation, old wounds ripped wide open.
Well, we're not going to fight. If that's the condition of coming back, we're not coming back because we are a whole family, a wholesome family. We all have our flaws, but we don't fight.
Linda seemed to echo that vibe.
Well, you mentioned our family show, Mathis Family Matters, and as you see on there, our influence is that, black families are great families, and no, they're not filled with, just inner fighting, and so.
Now, before all this chaos, Greg and his wife Linda were seen as solid, not flashy, not overly public, just steady. They'd been together for decades, through poverty, through fame, through career highs and ugly rumors. Linda wasn't just his wife, she was his backbone. She handled the finances, she raised the kids, she held the family together while Greg worked endless hours building an empire.
For the first time in 15 years, the kids are all back in the same city.
He said it himself many times, that without Linda, there would be no Judge Mathis. They were the couple people pointed to and said, "See, that's real love." But here's the thing about long marriages nobody likes to talk about. Sometimes you don't leave because you stop loving the person. You leave because you're tired of disappearing inside the relationship. And according to Linda, that's exactly what happened. For years, she stayed quiet, swallowed her pain, defended him when rumors popped up, smiled on red carpets, showed up to events like everything was fine.
That might not be true according to you about this woman that allegedly you slept with. You allegedly got her pregnant. Listen to let me draw up the skeleton, Judge, and then you fill in the meat.
Talk about fueling your stuff. You, on the other hand, have admitted to being addicted to cocaine.
Absolutely.
Secondly, you continue to show symptoms of your addiction.
Okay.
Lastly,
what are those symptoms? Tell me.
These nasal passages you keep coughing up.
And I did Afrin.
This eternal cold that you continue to have.
Yes,
that you can't have to come to work because every other week, and now you even stupid so low as to blame it on your baby, your newborn. How low can you get? That's about as low as you can get to blame your child for your addiction. Then, lastly, your bisexual activity. I'm sure your audience want to know about that. I've heard that rumor.
I'm sure my husband would love that.
Yeah. Oh, he watches? Does he watch when you do it?
Yes. Don't you know?
No, I don't know. I didn't know you were that low down. Lastly, we can continue with what I heard about all those. It's like 8. You had 8 of them. That's what I heard. That's the rumor.
How interesting.
Now you want to keep fueling that? Did you write about that in your book?
I wrote it in my book.
All 8 of them?
Yes, I wrote.
8.
I have it.
But behind closed doors, sources say she was carrying hurt that never healed. And then Wendy Williams re-entered the picture. See, Wendy and Greg have history, messy history. Years ago, Wendy went straight for Greg on her show, questioning his behavior, his past, and even his integrity. Greg didn't laugh it off. He snapped. He went on the defensive hard, calling Wendy reckless, disrespectful, and flat out wrong. At the time, Linda stood by him publicly. But what nobody expected was that years later, Wendy would circle back, not to attack him, but to support the woman who finally walked away. That's the twist nobody saw coming. When news broke that Linda had filed for divorce, Wendy didn't stay silent. She didn't play neutral. She spoke up, and this time she wasn't alone. Wendy praised Linda for choosing herself, for leaving a marriage where she felt unseen, for finally telling her side. And according to insiders, Wendy and Linda had conversations that went deeper than the public ever heard. Conversations about loyalty, about secrets, about how women are often expected to protect men's reputations at the cost of their own peace. That's when the narrative flipped, because suddenly it wasn't Judge Mathis, the respected TV icon, it was Greg Mathis, the husband, being questioned. And that hit him hard. People close to Greg say he did not expect Linda to take this path. He didn't expect her to stand firm, and he definitely didn't expect Wendy Williams to back her up publicly. Behind the scenes, Greg was reportedly emotional, frustrated, and overwhelmed, not just because of the divorce, but because of how public it became. Every interview, every clip, every comment section, people digging up old footage, old accusations, old moments where Wendy's words suddenly didn't sound so wild anymore. And when the internet smells blood, it doesn't stop. Rumors resurfaced about infidelity, about inappropriate behavior, about secret lifestyles Greg always denied. None proven, none confirmed, but loud enough to hurt. And Linda? She wasn't cleaning it up anymore. She made it clear that she carried pain for years, that she sacrificed her dreams so Greg could chase his, that she waited for promises to slow down, to reconnect, to finally enjoy life together. And those promises never came. She wasn't just leaving a man, she was reclaiming her voice. That's what made this hit different. Because when Wendy Williams spoke, she didn't sound like gossip Wendy. She sounded like a woman who's seen this story before. A woman who knows what it feels like to be dismissed, embarrassed, and blamed while the man walks away respected. Wendy encouraged Linda to stand tall, to stop protecting someone who didn't protect her emotionally. And that public support cut deep. Sources say Greg felt betrayed, not just by Wendy, but by the timing, by the way everything unfolded, by realizing the image he worked decades to build was slipping out of his control. There were moments, according to insiders, where Greg questioned everything, his legacy, his marriage, his choices. Because no matter how much success you have, there's something humbling about realizing the person who knows you best is done. The emotional weight didn't stop at Greg either. Their family felt it. Their grown children felt it. Friends who thought they knew the full story were suddenly unsure. Public perception shifted from admiration to curiosity, and curiosity can be cruel. Every old clip became evidence. Every past argument became proof. Every rumor became believable to someone. And Greg, the man who once controlled the room, couldn't control the narrative anymore. That's where the breakdown came from. Not screaming, not public tears, but quiet realization that silence doesn't protect you forever, that time doesn't erase wounds, and that loyalty given without balance eventually turns into resentment. For Linda, this wasn't revenge, it was release. For Wendy, this wasn't just tea, it was validation. And for Greg Mathis, this was the moment his personal life became the very thing he spent years judging others for. The emotional impact runs deep. A marriage of decades ended not with a bang, but with exhaustion. A man known for strength faced vulnerability he couldn't talk his way out of. A woman who stood in the shadows stepped fully into the light. And whether Greg admits it or not, this exposure changed him. Because when the people closest to you stop defending you, you're forced to look inward. This story isn't just about scandal, it's about how public respect doesn't guarantee private happiness, how silence can look like loyalty until it becomes self-betrayal, and how sometimes the most powerful thing a woman can do is walk away and let the truth breathe. As for Wendy Williams, lover or hater, she has a way of showing up right when things fall apart. And this time, she wasn't spilling tea for entertainment. She was standing with a woman who finally said, "I'm done." So the question isn't whether Greg Mathis can recover his image. The question is whether he can face the parts of himself that never made it on camera. Because exposure doesn't always destroy you. Sometimes it forces you to grow. And one thing's for sure, this story isn't over yet. Drop your thoughts below. Do you think Wendy crossed a line, or did she simply say what needed to be said? Was Linda wrong for leaving after all these years, or was she overdue? Because when silence breaks, everybody hears it.